Hello everyone. So for my presentation, I decided to focus on emotional support animals because they've been very prevalent in the past couple of years and this topic seemed the most intriguing to me. So just to define an emotional support animal is, it is a dog or other common domesticated animal that provides support to its disabled handler through companionship, non-judgmental regard, affection, and or being a distraction from the issues of daily life. And it's important not to confuse an emotional support animal with a service animal. Service animals are animals that have been trained to perform tasks that assist disabled people. So, for example, a service animal would be a dog that helps a blind person navigate through life. There are many regulations that allow and help people to make their animals emotional support, and there's also regulations that make certain animals uneligible. But under the protections of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the Fair Housing Act, and the Rehab Act, no training is needed for an emotional support animal, so it's fairly easy to get credentials. To qualify for an emotional support animal, pet owners need an official letter from a licensed mental health professional, and they must have a verifiable disability. Individuals must meet the federal definition of disability, which means they must have a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. They must have record of such an impairment, and they must have this impairment for quite some time. So, which animals can be emotional support animals? As long as the animal is domesticated, they pretty much qualify. There have been cats, dogs, mice, rabbits, birds, hedgehogs, rats, mini pigs, ferrets. The list kind of just goes on and on. And they can be any age as well. Basically, the animal has to undergo an individualized assessment to determine whether the assistance animal in question poses a direct threat to the health and safety of others. A wild or exotic animal that poses a greater risk of attack or disease to other residents could be denied based on this individualized assessment. So they cannot be exotic and they need to fit the environment that they're living in. In certain cases, some people have to go to court to prove that their animal is an emotional support animal. There are some specific cases that I want to bring up. One was involving a miniature horse, and a family fought to keep a miniature horse in their home for the sake of their young daughter. The daughter suffered from a number of disabilities that deterred her from walking and balancing on her own, and so the horse allowed her to do so without help from her parents. Another case included a student at the University of Michigan. He was asked to take his guinea pig out of his dorm room, but he claimed that this animal provided emotional support and subsided his anxiety. And in both cases, the family and the student were able to keep their animals based on the Fair Housing Act. One interesting question is if you are allowed to have multiple emotional support animals, and the answer is yes. So, the Americans with Disabilities Act makes allowances for more than one emotional support animal and even suggests that in some cases, a person with an emotional or mental disability may in fact require multiple animals for successful treatment. So, how do animals reduce emotional stress in humans? Playing with a pet or an animal can increase levels of the stress-reducing hormone oxytocin and decrease production of the stress hormone cortisol. So when people hug or kiss a loved one, oxytocin levels increase. That's why it's often called the love hormone, and that hormone plays a huge role in pair bonding. Oxytocin is the hormone that underlies individual and social trust, and it also is an antidote to depressive feelings. So when people bond with humans or animals, oftentimes it's easier to bond with animals, and it gives people a boost in confidence and happiness and overall health. There was an author, his name was John Mayer. He's not the musician, but he wrote a book called Family Fit Find Your Balance in Life. And he has an entire chapter and section on some emotional support animals. And he stated that they provide love and devotion without question or consequence. Their calmness provides a mindfulness experience for their adult partners in a way that is often more effective than isolated personal techniques. So, emotional support animals, they provide companionship in the simplest sense. They also reap a lot of physical and social benefits. Emotional support animals prevent isolation and cause people to go outside and exercise, especially dogs. Um, Exploring the outside world with a dog attracts others to engage with people. So when you take your dog on a walk, a lot of people want to pet it, and then that gives people the chance to socialize with other humans as well. And this type of socialization is beneficial for people with anxiety or social anxiety. It also just allows people to get outside and be more healthy and active. So, after reading that one article about the contradiction of allowing university students to have emotional support dogs, I talked to one student here named Devin Myers, who is who believes having an emotional support animal reaps plenty of benefits. So I asked him what his favorite thing about having Lulu, his emotional support dog, is. And he said, I would say the biggest advantage of having an emotional support dog is the constant joy I feel always having her by my side. And then I asked him if the benefits outweighed the costs, and his response was, I think Lulu makes my life less hectic because she keeps it balanced 24/7. She is a constant reminder that I need to take care of myself so that I can take care of her. So, going into the arguments against emotional support animals, mostly within the past couple of years, there have been a lot of tribulations against people bringing animals on planes. And there's been a lot of accusations of people stating that their dog or animal is an emotional support animal when it's actually not. But I read this interesting article from Mark Beckoff, who stated, while people can and do abuse the system simply to bring their pets with them to places they normally would not be allowed, that behavior is egregious, given that so many people actually benefit from having an emotional support animal. So the fact that these animals help so many people is alright in the fact that some people might not be honest. So, in conclusion, emotional support animals lift spirits and lessen depression. They lower feelings of isolation and alienation. They encourage communication. They provide comfort. They increase socialization. They lessen boredom. They reduce anxiety. They aid in overcoming speech and emotional disorders. And they're just a great companion. So that's my presentation, and thank you all for listening.